All right. So this is a joint meeting of the Finance and Maintenance and Development Committees. And the purpose of this meeting is at the request of Parks, Building and Recreation to review the MSBA upcoming fiscal year submissions. And we're joined by the members of the Maintenance and Development Committee, Councilor Curran and Councilor Perez. And I'll turn it over to Councilor Whitfield to introduce the members of the Finance Committee. And then Pat, I guess we'll turn it over to you.
Great.
Thank you, Councilor. I think we only have Councilor Allen on right now from the Finance Committee, and the other member is Councilor Davila, so I'm not sure if he's going to make it or not, but that's who we are. So I'm all set to turn it over to Pat.
All right, Pat, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and let us know who's on the call from your team and let us know what we can do for you.
Well, thank you. As you know, I'm here and our department prepares the grants, and then Pete Garvey, who operates the capital asset department. Once we get successful, we'll get in the grants, then his department takes it over to actually construct the improvements. So we appreciate this joint meeting, and Pete and I started this a couple of years ago because if we're successful, then it does become a finance issue. So that's why we like to meet with both committees when we're submitting these applications. So first before you is the core and basically HVAC systems that come under the accelerator repair. It's led by Harena, which is the department and the school department's request to make that the priority school. We still want to do the HVAC work as well as the build out of the pod classrooms up on the second floor of that school. Milton Bradley would like to do boilers and pump, same with Rebecca Johnson. White Street is also a study to take that school and possibly join it with Kensington. And then Washington would be another one that we would be looking at possibly replacing it. So White Street and Washington will come under the core requirement, as well as Harena, because Harena would also be a build out of the existing school. So there's three, like last year, those three schools were submitted last year. They were not accepted, but we feel we keep trying, and then eventually they'll come to the table to assist us. Under windows and doors, we would like to apply for Milton Bradley School, Rebecca Johnson School, Pottinger Elementary, and Frederick Harris. And under new roof projects, we are recommending Commerce High, Indian Orchard, Sumner Avenue, Boland, and Glenwood, and Rebecca Johnson schools. So this is all following our capital repairs recommendations to the city. We average on 3 to 4 a year being chosen, and I'll let Pete Garvey just go over the 3 that he's received last year that he's working on now and coordinating with.
Pete.
Last year, we put in multiple requests for schools, and we were selected to do 3. The Central High School boiler, the Glickman windows and doors, and the Thomas Balliet windows and doors. So we keep, there was 74, I think, selected the last round, and I think there was over 200 submissions. So we're doing pretty good as far as getting our fair share, I believe. I mean, we're a pretty good customer. We just need to get them, finance needs to finance it, and we don't need to jump through too many hoops to get these projects moving.
I think the systems that I think everyone remembers 15 years ago, every time it rained, we had roofs leaking and mold and so forth. I would say this program is a big key by getting rid of those issues in a school. That's how we've dropped the asthma rate by 4% in our school buildings. It's helped us keep our buildings cleaner. And you match that with, just green cleaning and everything. It's all part of that overall plan to improve the school environment. So I applaud the council. You've always supported these, and I'm sure you'll continue to as we move forward. But as you see, our roof projects are getting down there, and we're really down to the last 8 schools that need roofs for a while. And so we're hopeful that they will come forward. If they don't start choosing some of these roofs, I think Pete and I will be working with the mayor and finance to find a way to bond for some of these. But they changed, years ago it was 20-year roof, now they upped it to 30. So a lot of times that timetable changed depending on how many applications they're getting. But we can limp along for a couple more years with the roofs, but after that, we're gonna have to probably bond for them. But we have our fingers crossed that they're going to choose some of the roof projects, but I think we've got a good program going forward, and Pete Garvey's department does a great job with the build outs once we get the grants.
I will say that when we had the topping off ceremony at Dewberry, the Department of Massachusetts Building Authority, the top dog, wanted to take a ride down to Arena. So that was somewhat encouraging.
That's great.
And
We don't have-
DPW is working on the road work for Arena as well, so I think that tunnel issue is going to get resolved very shortly as they get that out to bid. So Arena is coming together, but this would be the icing on the cake to address the HVAC and those pod classrooms in the room. So
for the White Street Kensington Street project, so you're saying the concept to study is similar to DeBerry, Swan, Lincoln, Brightwood?
Yes.
that's correct. So
Is there a site?
DeBerry, we reported the floor. We were very concerned about the floors in DeBerry. And when they saw that they agreed with us, Pete and I had gotten some engineering reports, and that kind of what forced that school being replaced. That on paper, I think that was a 1950 school, and we have much schools older, but that needed to be accelerated. So we kind of want to keep that same approach where we want to bring them to White Street, which we feel should be rebuilt, but they like that model of joining two buildings together. So we would recommend joining White Street and Kensington. And this is all from the superintendent of schools that's made these along with the school committee. And then I think they want to take a look at Washington and Beale as possible joining together. But all that gets sorted out in the study. So this is the first step to start that dialogue. And see what they're interested in doing. And, we maintain both facilities. They've invested in both facilities with roofs and windows and so forth. But I think it's a good first step to, plan. And Pete can tell you by the time it's accepted and by the time you actually open the doors, it's 7 or 8 years. So we're kind of looking ahead into the future for these decisions and not waiting till there is a crisis. So it's kind of nice to be in this position to take it a step at a time rather than being, we need to do it tomorrow or yesterday.
For White Street Kensington, is there an idea of a site?
No, it's just that we know we should do it over the next 5 to 7 years, and that will be all part of that study process.
Yeah,
We know that it's going to need to be about 5 or 6 acres. Dewberry's 5 acres. Brightwood's a little bit bigger than 5 acres. So if you take that scale, that's pretty much what you need. We haven't identified.
We haven't gone down that road yet, Councilor.
Haven't even
That's
looked
fine.
yet.
Just thinking ahead, I just want to make sure that we could save those buildings.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
I think the old Brookings would be the best example of why you want to save them.
Exactly.
It's kind of neat how that's being turned into apartments.
That's it. It's exactly what I'm thinking. All right, Councilor Whitfield.
I always support these. I don't have any issues with fixing roofs, windows, boilers, any HVAC on schools. So I think that is great. And I did want to say that Dewberry Homer is looking fantastic. So keep up the good work. And when is that scheduled to be completed?
They're going to be moving in 2023 of September or August. And then the demolition of the existing building, that's where the actual parking area is going to be. So we should be completed there in the spring of 2024.
Wow.
And
And
like
you're on schedule?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, it looks great
That's
though.
what I mean, Cal, it takes a long time to do all this. That's why we want to stay at the head of the curve with these.
Yeah, because we
these
should
next
be
two
like
buildings,
getting rid of those old schools as soon as possible and building these state-of-the-art, beautiful replacement schools, because I think that it's a fantastic concept and it looks amazing. I can't wait to see it. I haven't even been into Brightwood Lincoln yet. So I would like to see that as well.
If you want to do Pete and I would love to give you a tour if you want to do a subcommittee meeting down there.
All right, thank you.
And I will accompany you, Tracy. I went through
Thank you, Sister Counselor.
I went through that process, and you know what, seeing the faces and the students entering to a new school, you know what I'm saying? And working with a depleted school as Urena and bringing it to another level so they could look apart. I know what the feeling is, not only for the students, but for the community, you know? It's great. Those are great projects, you know what I'm saying?
I love those. I really do think that's a great concept to have the shared space and, be economically and environmentally friendly, right, Counselor Letterman?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And I think when you look at the size of it, when you go down there, again, Pete Garvey's knowledge, he kept that school under budget. And it's been a great working with Pete over these last 8 or 9 years because he just knows that construction business. So years ago, our department handled it. And, we always did our best, but he's just brought that whole construction to a whole new level. So you really got to see.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah.
Oh, really? No,
Like, woo!
I think we've used that bond savings for other projects. So
Set the bar high.
I wouldn't want to work for him though.
We started D-Berry in 2016 and we'll be done we'll be done with construction in 2024. We'll probably be closed out in 2025. So it's a 9-year from beginning to end. So there'll be somebody else sitting here, hopefully closing out these projects.
Well, train them up good, Pete.
Oh, I
We
will.
got big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
That's
You
true.
can see why we want to go in for them now, even though we don't need them tomorrow, but we'll need them in 5 years. So we got to start the process now. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, I hope we're all still sitting here. Counselor Allen, you had your hand up.
Yes, thanks. Couple of questions. First off, who's representing the school department in this meeting? Is that Mike Eaton? Is that?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm here on Pat Roach's behalf, who couldn't make the meeting. So in case there's any questions or follow-up needed, I can take it back to our side.
Yeah, well, how about it? Could you just let us know, your viewpoint, your and Pat's viewpoint, and these are good things that you're fully support and that Danny fully supports, and that this plan, anything you can give us on that would be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like everybody said previously, the work done by Pat Sullivan and Peter Garvey has been outstanding. Especially saving some of the funding to reappropriate. We're doing some great things, and with all these trying times with COVID and everything else, to be able to make some of these projects happen really is a silver lining in some of the challenges that we're dealing with on a regular basis. So anything to improve the lives of our students, we're all for.
So Councilor Allen, these already went before the subcommittee of the school department maintenance development, and it passed 2 weeks ago before the school committee already voted and approved all these. So this next step is before the city council.
All right, so you've gone through their committee
We've
process.
already gone, yeah, the school committee's already taken their votes and approved all this.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Pat. Another question. You made a comment about Harena. My kids went to Harena, and there were pods there then. I'm going back 35 years or something, but what is this pod thing in Harena? Is that an internal?
Right, the superintendent would like to convert those into traditional classrooms. He just feels that would be a better learning environment. Right now, there's partitions that separate those rooms. So again, if you want to do a tour of the school, we're happy to show it to you. So they do a great job. You walk down there, the teachers doing an excellent job. Our HVAC crews have done a great job maintaining the systems there. So everything, it's a great facility to work and learn in. But he just feels it'll bring it up to a whole new standard. And, that building, I think, is approaching 50 years old. So it's probably time to do a refresh and renovation of that area of the school. So I think it's, again, we follow the direction of the school superintendent and the mayor as the head of the school committee. And they make kind of set the standard of what they want to see in these buildings. And that's what we're following that.
Yeah, so I just misunderstood. So that's what I mean. There have already been pods there. I thought you were saying we're building pods, but you're saying you're changing the pods to regular classrooms.
Right. He would like to make them into a more traditional learning environment.
Okay, gotcha. That's good. And the other interesting thing there was you made a comment about the asthma rates. I mean, asthma rates are something that we all got attentive to, particularly in the biomass project, and you know, Springfield, the asthma capital of the world, and you know, the moisture problems at Harena and stuff. So
sure, when I started 15 to 16 years ago and I suffered from asthma, I would walk into probably half the school buildings and I was having to use my inhaler. So I quickly stepped up the cleaning of the buildings. We invested probably $30 million into an ESCO program to improve the energy efficiency of our buildings. But at the same time, we cleaned out steam traps. We improved the heating. Classrooms could range from 60 degrees
That was
to
30 years ago.
90 degrees in a classroom. So by having the learning environment at a consistent temperature now of say 70 degrees, keeping it cleaner, we've just the overall common sense approach and building maintenance, I think, has assisted in bringing our asthma. You know, we worked with Bay State, Sarita Hudson. We had a whole team together as we worked on this, and Councilor Letterman's had subcommittee meetings over the years as we progressed to get to that 4% rate. So there's still always work to do. And I think the biggest factor were leaking roofs, the mold caused by the leaks in our buildings. So we've gotten all that under control, and we're proud that we've reached that goal. And there's certain parts, just being in the Pioneer Valley, we will always have asthma just due to our own little climate atmosphere that we live in a valley. But if we maintain our school building, and I guess that's my point. That's why these grants are so important. The city, we couldn't afford to do all this on our own. And by getting these 3 or 4 addressed every year, we're staying ahead of the curve. And we don't want leaking roofs again. That's why we might be back to you in a couple of years saying, hey, we recommend that we'll bond for a couple of these if the state isn't stepping up to the table to get these things done, because we don't want to go backwards. And as long as Pete and I are around, we're going to want to keep things ahead of the curve.
No, that's great. I mean, that's encouraging, because all we ever hear was, all I ever heard was bad asthma news, and this is better news. So,
right.
So who makes that evaluation every year as to the asthma? Is that Gene Clancy, the health department people? Or
yeah, so the nurses do report it, and they work with Sarita's Hudson's group out of Bay State, and they correlate those numbers.
That's a good. Just a comment. That's just a good number for us to keep an eye on, because we've all been concerned about asthma rates, and this is the first time I've ever heard say we've seen an improvement in them because of the things we've done. That's a really interesting, and you can't argue against that. There's no argument against that at all. That's great. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you.
And just for the purpose of our day, Tim, the community had requested an independent study, right, Patrick?
Yes.
And and it was approved for an independent study, and we compared the study of the city with the independent study, and it was right apart.
Right.
We bought the EPA, did a study down at Harena. Again, my kids were in the schools. Again, like I said, I have asthma. So when I walk in, I can now sit in Harena for a 5-hour meeting and I don't have an asthma attack. So I know that a building is good if it's not affecting my breathing. So it's just good. So that means kids are in the classroom longer, they're learning better, they're not leaving because of their having asthma. So that means, and I think it correlates. You see our graduation rates have gone up in the past few years. So I think it's just it has just a ripple effect. If you maintain your buildings, it's going to have that ripple effect for a good outcome for the kids in education. And I think that's what we're achieving with this program.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
That's great. I appreciate you mentioning that. That's great.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. We are joined by now Councillor Govan as well as Councillor Davila. So thank you for joining us. I would add just to the conversation around the asthma rate and the impact of indoor air quality, which is significant. We talk a lot about our air quality rating on outdoor air quality, but one of the other things that cities like ours struggle with is the fact that we have such an old housing stock, we have such old commercial buildings, and we actually have improved our ranking on the Asthma and Allergy Foundation's nationwide assessment of asthma capitals, which is based not just on the rate, but also on the prevalence of ER visits and sort of untreated asthma attacks, and that is going down, and I think as the result of improvements to indoor air quality as well as outdoor air quality, not just in the schools, but also through the Healthy Homes Initiative that the Public Health Institute has worked on. So definitely more work to continue to be done there, but it's significant as we chip away at it. Other questions for Pete, Pat, or Mike from councilors? Just one question, Pat. Do you have a total on the amount being sought from the MSBA?
No, it's not. You don't do a dollar amount. You just say you go in for the need. They study it, and then if they approve it, then they work with Pete and the design team to come up with the dollar amount.
And
it's a grant for need, not a grant requesting a certain pot of money yet.
So you'll come back with that to the finance committee.
That's right. Yeah. Pete always, they get the study done, then Pete comes back before you guys with the exact dollar amount that he's going to need.
And on paper, it's 80% reimbursement.
This is as close to 80% as we'll ever get. The core
Right.
projects are right around less than 60%, but these are running anywhere from 78% are reimbursables. So there are some things that aren't reimbursed, but it's very minimal. These programs are very good. They're very streamlined.
Good.
There's not caps on anything, so that's very encouraging.
So it's a really good deal for the taxpayer to get 80% of them funded through this program.
Like I said, we're running around 78% on most of our projects.
That's good. That's good.
Chair Whitfield. Good to go. Councillor Allen, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just one I meant to ask before. So when you submit these things, you mentioned that the guy was up here for the flag raising or whatever you call it, that event that we held there a few weeks ago at DeBerry, and he wanted to go see Harena. So when they choose these, such and such projects, and they don't choose others, do they usually go in line with what you guys want? First, that's the first part of the question. And the second part is, do they actually visit the schools and see them, or is they doing it just off of a written report?
They decide prior to
They do
coming
come out.
and then we take them on a tour.
They do come out and look at all of them.
They
But
do.
some of
Okay,
them
so you
are
have it.
some of them are just arbitrarily put aside. If the roofing number next year becomes 32 years and we have some that are 28 years, they won't even look at them. So there's a whole matrix that they use.
All right.
We're not, the matrix slides a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I understand. But they do actually come out here and look, and you have a chance to talk with them about them, not just.
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
We put them in, like when they came to Brightwood, we put them in the small chairs in the basement, and they were there about a half hour, and they said, "You guys got a new school."
Good. That's good. All right. Thanks. I'm all set. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Councillor Allen. So seeing no further questions, Pat, Pete, and Mike, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
No, we just appreciate all your support on these and the other grants when we come down before you. And we're happy we like coming before the subcommittee so that way we report out to the full council what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we'll put our committee report together for the next regular meeting. When do you plan to submit these to the clerk?
March 7th, they're due at the end of March, so we'd like to be before you at your March 7th meeting. That gives us 2 weeks to compile that paperwork. As you know, the votes are very long, winded per their requirements, so.
Sure. All right, so we'll certainly have that report prepared. No vote needed today, obviously, but we appreciate the presentation and all the work that you continue to do. I mean, it's been this is my 5th year on the council, and one of some of the events that I've enjoyed the most are the groundbreakings and then subsequent ribbon cuttings of these school buildings. It really is incredible to be able to see our students have the opportunity to learn in such state-of-the-art systems, and the fact that we're continuing to move that across the city to give equitable access to that type of experience is one that I think we all share a commitment to.
I think we're over $600 million, Pete, in improvements now for this program.
Yeah, I got to update. I'm sure it's up there. I got to update my
So
spreadsheet.
it's really remarkable what we've gotten done through this program.
And to my colleague's point earlier, relative to the sustainability measures, I mean, it's great to see the certification efforts that have taken place. And I know we had a good meeting a couple of weeks ago on trying to start looking at some goals around rooftop solar. Certainly some things the state needs to clarify for us, but looking forward to seeing those reviews as well later on in the year.
Well,
I know Councilor Whitfield has to go. Councilor Whitfield, did you have anything you wanted to say before you left? No. Okay. All right.
On a side note, Councilor Letterman, we are doing solar at Brookings. It's part of our
Of course. Yeah.
NDRC grant, as well as we're doing solar over at the new forestry building in Forest Park. So we are dipping our toes into forestry. And I haven't gotten confirmation that we received LEED Gold at Brightwood, but we're on track to receive LEED Gold at Brightwood, which is a great accomplishment for the whole team. Not only the construction team, but the design team all the way through. So once we have that information transmitted back to us, I will reach out to everyone and let them know, because that really means something.
And we should arrange some celebration and recognition once you have that confirmed.
And we're putting in charging stations down there too, Councilor.
Yes, that's wonderful.
That's part of our lead submission.
All right. So seeing no further questions, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Allen, seconded by Councilor Perez. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. Thank you all so much for joining us, and look forward to seeing these on the March 7th agenda.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone.